This woman is getting married today. But the staff mistook her for a bridesmaid, simply because she had just gotten married at this hotel 2 days ago, the woman explained. I got divorced yesterday. Today is my second marriage. You'd better keep this confidential. The consequences are beyond your capacity to handle. Most people only marry once in their lifetime, a few may marry twice or thrice. But this beautiful woman before us has turned marriage into a profession. You ask how many times she's married? Just look at the wedding rings in her drawer. The nameplates beside each ring belong to her ex-husbands. Sora has had over 100 husbands because of her unique profession. This world is full of single men in need of wives. Sora is their tailor-made contract wife. Her exceptional skills help men achieve higher social standing and family prestige. With her exceptional skills, she helped a man charm a tycoon's wife, reviving his company from the brink. An Arab sheik, with her assistance, finally escaped his family's relentless marriage pressure. The final payment alone was a crate of gold and jewels, so much that Sora was mistaken for a fence when returning home. These are just the tip of the iceberg among the husbands she's served. Of course, money isn't everything. Kind-hearted Sora has also encountered clients she genuinely wanted to help. Hyunjun, born with 5 older sisters, became the sole darling of the family from birth, though he earned countless medals along the way, fulfilling every expectation his father had for a son. He fell in love with a man precisely when he reached marriageable age. He had no choice but to enlist Sora to pose as his wife, dispelling his family's suspicions about his sexuality. Sora agreed to his request. After the marriage, the two became the closest of roommates. The fair-skinned, handsome young man before them was Hyunjun's boyfriend and soulmate. After Sora left, the young man remained uneasy, insisting on seeing their divorce papers before he would let it go. With no other choice, Hyunjun showed him the documents. The man looked at them and frowned, saying, "This isn't your document." Hyunjun explained it was a copy of Sora's household registration, yet the document clearly bore another man's name. This man was Jaeho, Sora's most mysterious long-term client. He had reserved Sora's time every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for 5 years. Over those 5 years, their combined spoken words never exceeded 50 sentences. Sora's knowledge of him was as sparse as the name and age registered on his household record. Jaeho's first words upon meeting Sora were, "Please marry me." Throughout their 5-year marriage, they maintained a strictly formal relationship. Jaeho never introduced Sora to family or friends, nor did he make excessive demands. His sole request was that they share dinner together every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. For this alone, Jaeho paid her wages punctually and without fail every single week for 5 years. With such a deal, free meals and steady income, Sora had no reason to refuse. After settling her debts, she planned to retire completely, relocate to a new country, meet a man who knew nothing of her past, and experience a pure, untainted love. Just then, a client called, asking Sora to pose as his wife. She planned to fulfill this final service before retiring completely. But upon arriving at the agreed location, she discovered the man was actually the mother who wanted her to pretend to be her daughter. The daughter saw her fake mother and broke down crying on stage. Seeing this, Sora shoved the man aside and stormed out of the venue in anger. He had deceived her, breaking their prior agreement. As Sora stood outside the venue, engrossed in the little girl's artwork, the man stormed over, cursing, grabbed her arm, and demanded why she'd refused to give him face. Why had she abruptly left after only 2 hours of the agreed contract? Sora retorted, "My job is to play the wife, not the mother." She told him to look at the contract first, but the man insisted Sora was making trouble out of nothing. He believed a wife and a mother were one and the same. Sora instantly flared up. The man, enraged, lunged to strike her only to be knocked flying by Sora's lightning-fast flying kick. The next day, Sora returned to the school and added her own masterpiece to the girl's lonely drawing. The girl beamed with joy at the sight. Meanwhile, unbeknownst to Sora, a strikingly handsome male celebrity had secretly adored her for 13 years since a childhood incident. He even named his beloved cat Jammy. That was Sora's name 13 years ago. His profound impression of Jammy left him utterly uninterested in other women. Even when his rumored girlfriend Mina confessed her true feelings on set, he forcibly rewrote the script to reject her outright. Enraged, Mina slapped him across the face. Still unsatisfied, she even attempted to deliver a devastating kick. Back in the car, Taehan pressed ice against his swollen left cheek. His assistant asked what would happen if Jammy SSI married someone else. Taehan dismissed the question, saying Jamie wasn't the kind of woman to settle down normally. Jae-ho would remove his ring whenever Sora drove away. He'd then scroll through a girl's profile on his phone. His dimly lit desk was always stacked with books on criminal psychology. The next day, Jae-ho spotted a woman on the street and his eyes flashed with murderous intent. Late at night, the woman sensed a dark figure following her. After she sprinted home, Jae-ho emerged from the shadows. News of the woman's murder surfaced the following day. Jae-ho, agitated, pulled out Sora's business card. Meanwhile, Sora was preparing to accompany her husband for one last meal, for she had already resolved to retreat to a distant land. That evening, Sora took Hyunjun to a bar to dance. Unexpectedly, Hyunjun was instantly captivated by a handsome young man. Left alone, Sora resorted to entertaining herself, yet her alluring figure still drew the attention of a predatory man. Just as he made his move, she knocked him down with a single blow. The man's companion came to help, only to be effortlessly kicked down by Sora, but her high heel came off, causing her to lose her balance and fall onto the table. Seeing this, the bad man grabbed Sora's hair. Just as Sora was in danger, someone struck the man on the back of the head. A man in black picked up Sora's high heel and swiftly dealt with all the bad men present. Jae-ho then slowly approached Sora, crouched down, and gently helped her put her shoe back on. After waking up, Sora kept clutching Jae-ho. It turned out she had drowned her sorrows at the bar yesterday because Jae-ho had proposed divorce. This was the line she had intended for another man. Jae-ho's words caught Sora completely off guard. She had assumed her sudden departure would make this man, whom she had lived with day and night for 5 years, reluctant to let her go. Instead, he ended the relationship with such calm detachment. Sora's damn competitive streak kicked in immediately. Citing their contract, she declared she'd fulfill her remaining 27 days as his wife before rising to leave. Jae-ho, thinking she was heading to wash dishes, immediately offered to do it himself. After Sora departed, Jae-ho turned to find the table in utter disarray. No wonder Jae-ho had cooked every night for the past 5 years. The next day, Sora was still fuming at Jae-ho. Hyunjun observed his roommate and realized she had unknowingly grown dependent on Jae-ho. Though Sora stubbornly denied it, she couldn't help but reminisce about their time together. That man might not understand romance, but his accidental physical touches still filled the air with dopamine. Truly, there was no man she couldn't handle. Yet the next moment, Jae-ho declared he had soap on his hands. When my arm was broken, he'd thoughtfully simmer a bowl of bone broth for me. Watching me struggle to eat with my cast, he'd snatch my spoon away. I expected him to feed me romantically, but instead he handed me a straw. I vaguely recall burning my mouth that day. As glass after glass of wine went down, Sora gradually began showcasing her talents. From rock climbing to musical instruments, from ballet to death metal vocals, Hyunjun helplessly hoisted the drunken Sora onto his back and carried her back inside for a reset. The next morning, sobered up, Sora called her roommate to beg her not to reveal last night's performance. Hyunjun asked if she'd fallen for Jae-ho. After all, 5 years without ever liking anyone else just didn't add up. Besides, Sora had even turned down a 10 billion won client to honor her Monday, Wednesday, Friday contract with Jae-ho. Hyunjun's words pierced straight to Sora's true feelings. On his first night in the newly rented mansion, Taehyun heard strange noises downstairs late at night, stealing his nerves. He peered down the stairwell only to witness a bone-chilling sight. He fumbled for his phone to call the police but dropped it in panic. Looking down again, the neighbor vanished, leaving behind a stack of photos depicting brutally murdered women. One image matched the victim featured in the police bulletin he'd just seen on TV. Terrified, Taehyun wet himself and scrambled back under the covers, hiding until dawn. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. Grabbing his Oscar trophy for protection, he went to answer. Through the peephole, he saw his agent glaring at him through narrowed eyes. 2 days earlier, when Taehyun had just moved in, he'd asked his agent to bring his beloved cat. Jae-ho received a call from the delivery company asking him to come downstairs for a package. Thus, he happened to witness the scene unfolding before him. Glancing at the advertisement on the delivery van behind him, Taehyun realized his neighbor had misunderstood. As he tried to retrieve the cat, it escaped from the box. Though the cat was his, he had never dared to touch it. Yet, it showed unusual affection toward the stranger, Jae-ho. So, he asked his neighbor to take the cat to his place while he helped Jae-ho with the package. Meanwhile, Sora had unknowingly driven her car back to Jae-ho's apartment complex. Fuming, she decided to go upstairs and confront Jae-ho. But when the elevator doors opened, 2 men appeared before her. Just as the atmosphere turned awkward, Taehan noticed the matching wedding bands on their fingers. He immediately asked Sora if she lived downstairs and introduced himself as Taehan, the new neighbor upstairs. Sora's sudden reaction made Taehan think she recognized him, but the next second, Sora pressed the button for Jaeho's floor. That night, lying on the sofa, Taehan recalled the eyes he'd seen that day. He was certain they belonged to his Jamie. He couldn't fathom how the heiress of WW Group, who had refused a marriage alliance with his family 13 years ago and showed zero interest in marriage, was now married. This left Taehan, who had secretly loved Jamie for 13 years, utterly bewildered. Why had she changed her name to Sora? Frustrated and restless, he resolved to discard all his outdated clothes, the ones he believed Jamie would despise. Yet, in the stairwell, he unexpectedly encountered his goddess once more. He suddenly noticed the wedding ring was missing from her finger. And why was she dressed up so late at night? Watching Jamie's car drive away, his heart was filled with questions. Meanwhile, in the mansion, a certain male celebrity lay awake, his mind consumed by thoughts of his goddess. He went down to the underground garage but didn't find Jamie's car. Suspecting she hadn't returned for the night, he spotted her husband Jaeho's vehicle instead. Taehan leaned in curiously, scrutinizing it from top to bottom, wondering what kind of man Jaeho really was. How had he managed to marry the only daughter of the WW Group? Suddenly, Jaeho leaped out from behind him. Taehan ignored Jaeho and drove off. For 13 years, Sora had sent Suki 30 million won monthly for living expenses. Yet Suki lived in a dim, cramped room barely over 10 square meters. Despite a thick stack of passbooks, she still fell behind on rent each month, because every penny Sora sent, she saved away. After entrusting a friend to deliver the passbook to Sora, she slowly climbed onto a stool. Just then, the phone rang. Soon after, she arrived at a company. The man before her invited her to join the renowned Kongjin Corporation, the family business of male star Taehan. This man had recognized Suki's talent. On the final day of the contract, Sora arrived at Jaeho's home as agreed. But just as she was about to enter, Taehan suddenly appeared from behind. He grabbed Sora's hand, urging her to run, and claimed her husband was extremely dangerous. Taehan spoke thus because that night, in the dim stairwell, he had witnessed a terrifying scene involving Jaeho. Just as Sora was about to explain they were a contract marriage, the door behind them suddenly swung open. Taehan directly questioned Jaeho's identity and revealed the photos he'd personally taken that night of a murdered woman. Along with Jaeho's bizarre behavior, Taehan suspected Jaeho was a serial killer. And even Sora began to fear him. Worried Sora might misunderstand him, Jaeho revealed his identity as a judge. His terrifying knife-wielding actions were actually simulations of crime scenes for divorce cases. Sora instantly gazed at Jaeho with admiration. Taehan wondered why Sora always left in the dead of night, returning 2 days later only to vanish again. Just as Sora tried to explain the contract marriage, Jaeho pulled her into his arms. "That's our private life. Why do you need to know?" With that, he embraced Sora and walked back inside, leaving Taehan fuming outside the door. Yet just as Sora basked in the warmth of that sudden affection, Jaeho abruptly shoved her away. He then asked what she planned to do after divorcing and retiring. Sora confessed she wanted to fall in love. Though she'd been married countless times over the years, she'd never truly experienced romance. When Sora asked if he wanted to date, Jaeho admitted he wasn't good at it. After pondering for a moment, she asked him what kind of girl he liked. After persistent questioning, Jaeho said he liked girls who wore no makeup. In this heart-to-heart conversation, their final dinner together soon came to an end. The two reluctantly bid their final farewells. Driving away late at night, Sora was secretly photographed by a mysterious figure in the darkness. The next day, Sora called her best friend Hyunjun to go shopping together. After buying several handbags, she unexpectedly encountered a former customer. Sensing his improper intentions, Sora pretended to be Hyunjun's girlfriend to shake him off and avoid trouble. Watching them walk away, the man's eyes hardened with a ruthless glint. Back home, Sora stared at a drawer full of wedding rings, intending to donate them all. Each sparkling ring represented a memory, and each customer she had served. Just as she was handling the final ring, Jaeho's, she suddenly remembered she hadn't finalized her divorce from him. After drafting the divorce agreement confirmation, she had Hyunjun drive her to Jaeho's house. Before getting out, Hyunjun stared at Sora's face, utterly curious. She, who always wore heavy makeup, looked almost barefaced today. Sora nervously explained she was wearing a natural makeup look, but shortly after Hyunjun left, a hooded figure in black blocked Sora's path. Sora knew instantly this person was likely one of her 99 ex-husbands. All her exes flashed through her mind in an instant. As the assailant lunged, Sora ducked the slash and kicked him hard, sending him crashing to the ground. Enraged, the thug grabbed a nearby sandbag and slammed it down, knocking Sora back to the floor. Just as the situation turned critical, Taehan appeared and kicked the attacker flying. The thug scrambled to his feet but fled in panic upon realizing he was outmatched. Taehan then brought Sora back to his place. Seeing her drenched reflection in the mirror, Sora borrowed a loose-fitting shirt from him. Hearing the loud commotion coming from the bathroom, Taehan teased that Sora really was treating his place like her own home. No sooner had he finished speaking than Sora asked him to come in and help. As soon as he entered, Sora undid the first button of his shirt. It turned out she just needed help applying ointment. Sora reasoned that as an actor, he wouldn't feel awkward getting this intimate with a stranger. In truth, Taehan had recognized her true identity from the start. He'd even harbored a secret crush on her until now. Seeing Sora wasn't wearing her wedding ring again and recalling the strange dynamics between her and her husband, Taehan suspected Sora was being coerced by Jaeho in that regard. He assumed some strange arrangement existed between them. Sora laughed outright at this suggestion. Then Taehan suddenly revealed Sora's true identity as the only daughter of WW Group. Just as Sora was about to deny it, Taehan said they had met long ago, over a decade earlier. Sora had rejected a marriage alliance with LK Group. She had even beaten up LK Group's head at the banquet. Taehan was the youngest son of LK Group. At that banquet, he had fallen head over heels for the formidable Sora. To this day, Sora knew Taehan also didn't want his true identity exposed, so she used this to blackmail him into keeping each other's secret identities hidden. After learning from security that Sora was injured and had gone to Taehan, Jaeho paced back and forth in the living room. He even stared up at the third floor, imagining a melodramatic scene. Growing increasingly furious, Jaeho printed out a divorce agreement confirmation form, but upon reaching the third floor, he felt his actions were utterly bizarre. Unexpectedly, stepping out of the elevator again, he collided head-on with Sora. Instantly awkward, Jaeho glanced at the documents in both their hands and suggested Sora come in for tea. She refused outright, fearing she'd be too reluctant to leave if she entered. She proposed going to a coffee shop instead. Yet upon seeing the coffee shop filled with young couples, the pair awkwardly moved to a Western-style restaurant. Compared to coffee, this 5-year contract couple clearly felt more comfortable sharing dinner. She remembered he couldn't handle spice, and he remembered she couldn't stand pepper. Yet sweetness always proved fleeting. Jaeho managed to upset Sora after just a few words, but the very next day, when Sora opened the envelope containing the divorce agreement, she discovered inside a concert ticket for a performance she adored. Thinking he was trying to win her back, Sora excitedly called him. At that moment, Jaeho was busy investigating the thugs from that night. After days of relentless clue gathering, he finally identified the culprit. Through his investigation of Sora, Taehan discovered she was in the contract marriage business. He called her. Sora was exercising at home. Taehan asked Sora to come to his place and take away the messy clothes he'd left behind. Just as Sora was about to leave after gathering the clothes, she saw Jaeho knocking on the door. Taehan asked if he was there for Sora, but Jaeho replied, "I'm here for you." Taehan looked surprised and asked why. Jaeho stated, "The man who attacked Sora is connected to you." Turns out the guy was a stalker with serious issues, and his target had always been Taehan. The attack on Sora was most likely a misunderstanding about their relationship. Learning the assailant wasn't after him, Sora finally let out a sigh of relief. After they left, Sora couldn't help but ask Jaeho, "If you weren't planning to go, why did you give me the concert tickets?" Jaeho sensed Sora was upset because he wasn't attending, so he promised he'd attend the next day. The following evening, Sora dressed up elegantly, eager to enjoy the musical feast with Jaeho. Just before the performance began, Jaeho secretly swapped seats with a cute girl, while others savored the concert. He admired only Sora seated before him. In that moment, to Jaeho, the entire concert hall seemed to hold only the two of them. After the concert, Jaeho waited for Sora at the exit but unexpectedly ran into his boss. Turns out the concert tickets were a gift from his boss. The boss intended for the socially awkward Jaeho to invite his colleagues to the concert, but Jaeho hadn't invited anyone. Just as the boss was about to explode and lecture Jaeho, Sora suddenly emerged from the side. The well-meaning boss had worried that someone socially awkward like Jaeho would spend his life alone, only to discover he'd already married such a beautiful wife. His worries had been entirely unfounded. Later, on their way home, A delivery rider lost control of his motorcycle while distracted and careened towards Sora. The familiar helmet instantly brought back the terrifying memory of that night. Unconsciously, Jae-ho stepped in front of Sora to shield her. Though the collision was avoided, Sora's heart began racing wildly. Noticing Sora's dazed expression, Jae-ho requested an extension on their contract. Citing unfinished analysis of the criminal footage, Sora readily agreed, promising to teach him how to be loved by others during the remaining time. The next day, however, his boss made another proposal that sent shivers down Jae-ho's spine. He was instructed to invite his colleagues over to his home. Despite Jae-ho's vehement refusal, his abusive authority boss unilaterally approved it, though he deeply regretted intruding on Sora's life again. Seeing his colleagues' high spirits, Jae-ho didn't want to dampen their enthusiasm. Left with no choice, he sought Sora out to discuss the matter. Sora told him not to be nervous and to engage with his colleagues. First, try to relax your body. With that, she taught Jae-ho a set of relaxation exercises. Unexpectedly, mid-instructions, the two shared an abrupt moment of closeness. Fortunately, quick-witted Sora skillfully diffused the awkward tension. Just then, Sora received a call from Hyunjun. He informed her that her adoptive mother was in trouble, with news about her flooding the internet. Watching the news of her foster mother's arrest on TV, Sora frantically called her but got no answer. Noticing Sora's deep concern for the woman on screen, Jae-ho used his connections as a judge to uncover the details. It turned out that after being kicked out of their home with Sora, her foster mother had been living in constant debt. Despite cramming into a tiny rental apartment, she was still too poor to pay the rent. Whenever the landlady came demanding rent with a vicious glare, Suki would casually toss her a designer handbag. Suki was originally the business director of a chaebol family, possessing exceptional headhunting skills in her field. Rumors even swirled that she might become the next matriarch of the chaebol. But then, the eldest son of LK Group called her, offering her the highest authority. Desperately broke, Suki accepted. Though she knew when someone's kindness exceeded expectations, there was always an ulterior motive. Sure enough, after exploiting her connections, the man shifted all blame for the land issues onto her. He falsely accused her of signing contracts under the company's name and demanded she pay 7.5 million won in damages. Sora visited her foster mother in prison. Even knowing this woman had always seen her as a tool for wealth and advancement, Sora couldn't bring herself to truly hate her. Returning home, Sora sold her car to pay off the 7.5 million won bail for her foster mother. She told Hyunjun she couldn't go to Canada with him. Hyunjun looked utterly devastated, bewildered by Sora's sudden change of heart. He suggested she visit Jae-ho to lift her spirits. But moments after hanging up, Sora received a call from Jae-ho. He explained his colleagues were having their first team dinner and he couldn't decline. Sora said it was fine, but then requested to have dinner alone at Jae-ho's place instead. Meanwhile, Taehan and his mother were arguing on the phone. Because of the online rumors about homosexuality that had brought shame to the family, the old chairman demanded he hurry back to arrange a marriage with the heiress of the Sunghan Group. As for all the childish games like filming dramas and commercials, in the chairman's eyes, they were nothing but shameful acts of selling his face for money. At that moment, Taehan suddenly spotted Sora walking alone. Frustrated beyond measure, he decided to make a bold move. Taehan then led a bewildered Sora through rows of reporters, stepping directly in front of the cameras. At that moment, Jae-ho, visibly socially anxious, looked up and saw the scene unfolding on TV. Sora stared at Taehan beside her in shock. Unable to comprehend his actions, she voiced her intention to retire. Taehan tried to persuade her, playing the emotional card. He claimed his desire for a contract marriage wasn't about sensational gossip, but to protect his mother. Only this way could he ensure his mother wouldn't be ruthlessly kicked out of the chaebol family by his heartless older brother. Clearly, the kind-hearted Sora felt a twinge of compassion for Taehan upon hearing this. Taehan handed Sora the keys to a luxury car, explaining it would help her avoid the reporters downstairs. Sora went to the underground garage and finally found the so-called luxury car tucked away in a corner. Armed with her special gear, Sora successfully evaded the reporters outside the complex. Soon after, Hyunjun heard noise outside. Turning on the light, the scene before him made him jump out of his skin. Distraught, Sora removed her helmet and ordered Hyunjun to fetch her beer. Seeing Sora's attire, her male best friend assumed she'd spent all her savings bailing out her foster mother, and had quickly found a new job delivering takeout. Returning home, Jae-ho saw the spotless kitchen and realized Sora hadn't come. This left him feeling a bit disappointed. The next day, riding the subway to work. He who never read gossip news found himself curiously glancing at the girl beside him. The following day, Sarah came again to sign the contract with Taehyun. Just as she was about to go upstairs, she saw Jae-ho standing by the elevator doors. Fearing an encounter, Sora hurriedly hid to the side. This bizarre scene was perfectly captured by Jae-ho through the glass. This instantly reminded him of the helmeted man who had stalked and attacked Sora days earlier. To ensure Sora's safety, Jae-ho resolved to apprehend him and bring him to justice. He pretended to enter the elevator. Just as Sora, relieved to have escaped, pressed the button to go upstairs, she spotted Jae-ho. Panicked, Sora instinctively turned and fled. Jae-ho couldn't believe the helmeted man possessed such agility. Sora, meanwhile, felt a small surge of pride over her unexpectedly high-difficulty escape maneuver. But when she tried to flee again, Jae-ho grabbed her back. Yet when he lifted the helmet, he discovered the eerie helmeted man was none other than his own wife, whose contract was about to expire. After standing up, Sora tried to explain to Jae-ho about last night's scandal involving the male celebrity, but Jae-ho gave her no chance to speak, turning and walking away. Sora then went upstairs to Taehyun's place and got straight to the point. Startled, Taehyun put on an act of reserve. Sora, however, paid him no mind whatsoever. Busily primping herself, she asked Taehyun how many times a week. Taehyun countered by asking about the person downstairs. Sora quickly calculated the contract fee. Taehyun couldn't help but gasp at the figure. But then he realized Sora could not only help dispel the gay rumors, but also resolve his family's arranged marriage situation. Taehyun reluctantly agreed to the price. However, Sora refused to meet at his place due to her cat allergies, so Sora bundled up tightly and invited Taehyun to meet outside. Unsurprisingly, their date drew a flurry of paparazzi snaps from passers-by. Later, Sora brought Taehyun to an empty parking lot. Without a word, she flopped onto the car and slept for 2 hours. True to form, paparazzi snapped them, and news of their late-night car rendezvous flooded headlines. Jae-ho listened to his subordinates gossiping excitedly outside. He was furious, convinced Sora had signed with Taehyun solely for the money. He immediately demanded to renew Sora's contract. She never imagined that after living with Jae-ho for 5 years, this was how he truly saw her. Did all those moments of genuine care she cherished amount to nothing but pitying handouts? Sora stormed off in a huff. Even the final contract dinner the next day, Jae-ho waited in vain for Sora's arrival. He opened his phone contacts, hesitated, and put the phone back. Outside the door, Sora stood for 30 minutes, equally torn, unable to press the doorbell. When Jae-ho finally got up to check, the spot was empty. Sora's departure left him hollow inside. Unable to articulate his feelings, he sought out a psychologist late that night. Through the expert's guidance, he finally understood his own heart. The next day, determined to have a home date with Sora, Taehyun went to great lengths to cage and send away the cat. Sora, meanwhile, replaced the curtains at home, seeking that very sense of hazy intimacy. Yet despite these efforts, when Sora left, she was captured by a dedicated paparazzo. As they attempted to follow Sora, a car suddenly shot out, aggressively blocking their path. Jae-ho's commanding words sent the reporters away in frustration. He then arrived at Sora's doorstep, begging for forgiveness. Despite his personal apology, Sora's anger remained unresolved, so Jae-ho could only awkwardly trail behind Sora as they hiked up the mountain. The next day, he limped to work in a sorry state. After work, Jae-ho was still practicing how to apologize to Sora. To his surprise, upon meeting, Sora readily agreed to renew the contract. Jae-ho breathed a sigh of relief and planned to continue fulfilling their Monday, Wednesday, Friday couple duties as before. But times had changed. Now, superstar Taehyun had also signed a 3-day-a-week couple contract with Sora. Thus began an absurd hallway negotiation. The men's damn competitive nature made both contract husbands utterly unwilling to yield. The standoff lasted until Jae-ho spotted the cat scratches on Sora's arm, prompting both to back down. Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays belonged to Jae-ho. Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays belonged to Taehyun. Jae-ho would care for Taehyun's cat during the latter days. Soon Wednesday's date arrived. Jae-ho informed Sora that his boss would be hosting a gathering at his home on Friday. Sora confidently assured Jae-ho he'd handle the task flawlessly. The pair then headed to the mall to purchase items needed for the upcoming event. Sure enough, men everywhere share the same weakness: shopping with their wives is their most vulnerable moment. To solidify Jae-ho's image as a devoted husband, they visited a photo studio together and snapped countless sweet pictures. Late at night on the way home, gazing at Sora's stunning beauty, Jaeho disregarded traffic rules and couldn't resist pouncing on her, but the next second, Jaeho claimed there was a mosquito in the car. Sora hurriedly turned on the music to ease the awkwardness. Yet, romantic love songs poured out of the speakers. Thus, on this romantic yet awkward drive home, they talked endlessly, perhaps more than they had in the past 5 years, deepening their understanding of each other. Friday arrived quickly. Sora arrived at Jaeho's home early. She meticulously decorated the house in advance, replacing the photos with the warm couple shots she had prepared earlier. She booked the top-tier 5-star chef. After a busy and fulfilling afternoon, Jaeho's once cold room was completely transformed. That evening, as guests arrived, every one of them praised the room's beauty. Even Jaeho himself couldn't believe his eyes. After touring the space, his boss remarked that he'd clearly misunderstood Jaeho before. He never imagined the couple was so happily in love. He even sighed. Jaeho's everywhere these days. When are you and your wife going on a trip together? Jaeho was completely baffled by his boss's question. Only when he stepped into the inner room and saw the table laden with their photos did he understand. Dinner then commenced in a cheerful atmosphere. Sora, too, had no idea that tonight's events after drinking would become unforgettable for the rest of her life. During the meal, Sora overheard Jaeho's colleagues discussing that since neither she nor Jaeho had touched alcohol throughout the dinner, they suspected the couple was hiding a secret from everyone, hence the need to stay sober at all times, to avoid arousing suspicion. Sora returned to the table and proactively raised her glass with everyone. With astonishing drinking prowess, she knocked the entire group flat in minutes. Under the influence, Sora completely let loose, performing various talents. Jaeho couldn't help but smile at the sight. Amidst the group's revelry, Sora had no recollection of how she even got home. What happened in the wee hours of the night remained a complete blank. Yet today, she still had to go to work as usual, keeping her Saturday date with Taehan. Thus, she appeared at Taehan's doorstep looking utterly exhausted. The two then headed to the garden for their date, where reporters snapped photos of their romance. But after a sleepless night, Sora instantly slumped onto Taehan's shoulder, overcome by drowsiness. Through her drowsiness, Sora recalled last night's events. During a drinking game, colleagues had egged them on to kiss, but Jaeho, in that very moment, began reciting legal statutes. Don't you know forcing physical contact is harassment? Sora sat up abruptly and strode directly toward Jaeho. Lifting his chubby chin, she pressed her lips against his. When Sora awoke, both her husbands were beside her. Fearing the other might take advantage of their wife, the two men now lived under the same roof, keeping watch on each other. After Sora sobered up, Taehan left to focus on work. She awkwardly made excuses and hurriedly fled. Yet recalling last night's sweet kiss, her cheeks still burned uncontrollably. Hyunjin asked why her face was so red. Sora hastily explained it was the lingering effects of alcohol. But the next second, her gaze locked directly onto Hyunjin's lips. Hyunjin suddenly snapped to attention and demanded, "Did you sleep with a customer last night?" Sora had no choice but to confess what had happened. But since she'd been drunk, she herself was curious about the details. Just then, Jaeho called, asking Sora to come pick up the props from last night's gathering. After carefully getting dressed, Sora returned to Jaeho's house with the cleaning crew. Jaeho had intended to ask Sora why she suddenly kissed him last night. Sora said that kiss was just part of the act. Jaeho's expression darkened instantly, and he promptly ordered Sora and the workers to leave. Stepping outside, Sora was baffled by the abrupt dismissal. Yet Jaeho wasn't feeling much better inside. His personality flaws made expressing emotions difficult. But when he saw the clothes Sora had meticulously prepared for him in the walk-in closet, thoughts of her inevitably surfaced. The next day, Jaeho surprisingly wore the tie Sora had chosen for him to work. His subordinates couldn't help but whisper about it. Amidst the compliments, Jaeho gradually lost himself. Meanwhile, Taehan was lost in thought, staring at paparazzi photos of himself and Sora. After work, he took Sora to the horse ranch for a date. He intended to impress his goddess. Little did he know, as a professional bride, Sora had mastered every hobby of the wealthy. Her equestrian skills were even at a national level. Hearing this, Taehan could only seek out the instructor with an awkward expression. But when he accidentally witnessed Sora's intimate interaction with the horse, that breathtaking sunset scene instantly captivated Taehan. The love in his eyes was impossible to hide. A sudden inspiration struck Taehan. He immediately gave the instructor a day off, then told Sora the coach had been kicked by a horse, asking her to teach him horseback riding directly. Soon, Both were practically galloping ahead. Jae-ho happened to see Taehan flaunting the tie Sora gave him during a livestream on his subordinate's tablet, and this tie was identical to his own. Late at night, Jae-ho finally arrived for his date with Sora. Sora poured him a glass of wine, urging him not to finish it all, or she'd feel lonely. But Jae-ho downed it in one gulp. Watching the light rain fall outside, Sora couldn't help but open up to Jae-ho. When she turned back, she found him slumped lifelessly on the stool. Thinking he was joking, Sora approached to check on him, only to discover he was genuinely passed out drunk. She couldn't resist touching his eyebrows. At that moment, Jae-ho radiated an irresistible charm that made Sora yearn to kiss him. Just as Sora prepared to leave, Jae-ho suddenly grabbed her arm. He confessed his true feelings. Over the weekend, he had invited Sora to accompany him to a gathering hosted by the boss's wife. He'd hoped to impress the woman he liked, but instead became the lady's laughingstock. Fortunately, Sora's exceptional golf skills saved the day with a stunning shot. Jae-ho couldn't help but feel a little proud. His unassuming gestures always warmed Sora's heart. When Sora went to retrieve balls for the wives, Jae-ho would rush over, saying, "Stay right here, I'll handle it." During conversations, he'd notice details like Sora rubbing her waist. During breaks, he'd thoughtfully offer her a lumbar support patch. It was these small gestures that cemented Jae-ho's place in Sora's heart. The contractual marriage arrangement between them gradually underwent subtle shifts. After another attack by the helmet-wearing assailant, Taehan decided to hire a bodyguard. By a twist of fate, he ends up hiring Sora's male best friend. Hyun-jun, surprisingly, is a hidden taekwondo master. But upon learning he'd have to be constantly with Taehan, Hyun-jun hesitates. Taehan assumes it's because he offered too little pay. Instead, Hyun-jun reveals he's gay. His sudden confession leaves Taehan's mind blank. Yet Taehan's acceptance of homosexuality earned Hyun-jun's respect. He immediately accepted the role as personal bodyguard. That evening, Sora spotted a haggard Taehan in the underground parking lot while heading home. Upon seeing Sora, Taehan asked her to drive him to a hotel. It turned out Taehan's mother had recently learned through the news that her son had a girlfriend. She was determined to see what kind of woman had so utterly captivated her son. Seeing her son lose all ambition to fight for the family fortune over a woman, Mrs. Kim was furious and vowed to track down Sora and make her pay. Taehan refused Sora's date precisely because he feared she'd be dragged into this mess. He packed his bags that very night, planning to move into a hotel. The mental strain of recent days had left him physically and emotionally drained. Sora drove him to the hotel and was about to leave when she saw Taehan collapse again. With no other choice, Sora stayed overnight to care for the unconscious Taehan. By the time Sora left the hotel, it was already late the next evening. Her thoughts turned back to Jae-ho. Her phone was flooded with news about Taehan and his girlfriend spending the night at a hotel. Just as she was unsure how to explain this to Jae-ho, he called. Sora explained the entire situation to him in detail. On the other end, Jae-ho was already on his way home from work. Seeing rain approaching outside, Sora returned to the hotel to wait for Jae-ho. Just then, a stunning woman in red entered the hotel lobby. As the newly appointed legal counsel for Taehan's agency, she approached Taehan and greeted him. At that moment, Taehan also spotted Sora entering. He pulled Sora toward him and introduced her to the lawyer as his fiancée. Just as the two looked utterly stunned, the lawyer pointed toward the entrance, and this lawyer turned out to be Jae-ho's ex-wife. Jae-hi extended her small hand to greet Jae-ho. Taehan and Sora stood awkwardly by, watching this tense scene unfold. Seeing her outstretched hand go unacknowledged for a long time, Jae-hi finally suggested going for a drink. Jae-ho took Sora's hand and walked away without looking back. Jae-hi's sudden appearance created a subtle rift between the two, who had only recently begun to build a connection. Finally, Jae-ho broke the suffocating silence. He explained to Sora that he had divorced 7 years ago. Now, he and his ex-wife were complete strangers. There was nothing between them. Unconsciously, Jae-ho had driven the car to the building where he lived. Only after realizing this did he feel apologetic. Back home, Jae-ho called his therapist, wanting to meet. Over drinks, Jae-ho shared his story with his ex-wife. He was only 17 when they first met in their student dorm. The beautiful 16-year-old girl across the hall immediately caught Jae-ho's attention. But one day, while airing out his room, he saw a creepy old man staring straight at her window. The thought of the beautiful girl living alone across the hall stirred a protective instinct within Jae-ho. When he encountered the man eavesdropping on the girl's room again that day, Jae-ho deliberately shoved him hard. A heated argument ensued. The man demanded to know what Jae-ho's relationship with the girl was and why he was meddling. In his panic, Jae-ho blurted out, "She's my sister." At that moment, the girl came out, having heard the commotion. From then on, the two pretended to be siblings while staying at the hotel. Later, Jae-ho obtained his lawyer's license. Jae-hai then proposed the idea of marrying him. Having never had an intimate relationship with anyone before, Jae-ho agreed to her suggestion. Knowing Jae-hai disliked a life of poverty, Jae-ho worked hard to become a tax lawyer. Later, he passed the bar exam and became a judge. Through 10 years of effort, he quietly bought a large house. Just as he prepared to share this joyful news with his wife, Jae-hai demanded a divorce. From that day on, Jae-ho stopped caring for anyone until he met Sora. For the first time, he lost control. For the first time, he desperately wanted to get close to someone. He wanted to tell Sora that life without her would be unbearable. The therapist encouraged him to share these feelings with Sora. Drunk, Jae-ho sent Sora a message. As Sora waited for Jae-ho on the bench below, the mysterious helmeted man reappeared behind her. It was Tae-hun, the male celebrity. Sora asked why he sought her out late at night. Tae-hun replied, "First, because I dislike Jae-ho. He suddenly appeared at the hotel and took you away. Second, because I feared you'd lose sleep after seeing his ex-wife. Third, because I wanted to have a drink with you. Fourth and most importantly because I missed you." Tae-hun slung his camera over Sora's shoulder, intending to take her somewhere fun, but the camera's zipper got tangled in Sora's hair. This scene was witnessed by Jae-ho, who had just arrived. Seeing the man in the black helmet seemingly doing something to Sora, Jae-ho assumed it was the same helmeted man who had previously tried to harm Sora. Without hesitation, he kicked Tae-hun to the ground. Seeing the comical scene, Sora grabbed Jae-ho and tossed him out. Tae-hun got up to confront Jae-ho but was stopped by Sora. Just as they looked back at Jae-ho, he had fallen asleep. When Jae-ho woke up, he found Tae-hun and Sora sharing a kiss. On the way home, Jae-ho warned Tae-hun not to cross the line. Today was Monday, the day Sora had a date with herself. But Tae-hun declared that just moments ago, he and Sora had confirmed their feelings for each other. With that, he turned and entered the elevator with a mischievous grin. Only then did Jae-ho snap back to reality. Could it be that what he'd glimpsed in his drowsy state that morning wasn't a nightmare? Was it all real? After sobering up, Sora recalled the early morning scene and felt deeply regretful. Because today was Monday, her date with Jae-ho, she planned to go upstairs and clarify last night's mistake with Tae-hun before meeting Jae-ho. She demanded he keep it secret from Jae-ho. Then she thought how pathetic she was. Speaking of which, had sleeping Jae-ho seen her kissing Tae-hun last night? Just as she was brooding, something worse was about to happen. Her adoptive mother had secretly contacted ANA Corporation to secure better material provisions for her. She aimed to secure more company shares for Sora. However, for Sora to carve out a position within the conglomerate, she must forge a marriage alliance with a Chaebol family. Suki then thought of Tae-hun, the youngest son of the Tae-hun group who remained unmarried, yet her assistant informed her that Tae-hun had recently announced his fiancé to the media. Suki's eyes lit up upon seeing the photo in the report. To verify her hunch, she went to Sora's room to compare the outfit with the photo. Sure enough, it matched her guess perfectly. Meanwhile, Jae-hai arrived at Tae-hun's residence to collect his signature. As she was leaving, she bumped into her ex-husband Jae-ho by the elevator. Their eyes met again, and the awkwardness was palpable. Jae-ho had no intention of engaging with his ex-wife. Yet, as he stepped out of the elevator, she grabbed him by the arm from behind. She apologized for the pain she had caused him in the past. Overhearing this from her hiding spot, Sora felt deeply despondent. That night, Hyunjun pushed open the door, intending to borrow Sora's car keys for a date. But upon seeing the murderous glint in Sora's eyes, he immediately fell to his knees in fear, begging for mercy. To his surprise, Sora merely handed him the keys with a sour expression and demanded he drive her to the gym. But what Sora never expected was that the new member at the gym was none other than Jae-ho's ex-wife. Sora immediately showed off some advanced moves. And so, an awkward hour passed in mid-air. Late at night, just as she was about to head home, Sora received a text from Jae-ho. He demanded to know why she hadn't come to see him at work that evening. After reading it, Sora, annoyed, decided to confront Jae-ho. Sora bluntly stated she'd overheard Jae-ho talking with his ex-wife that morning. Instead of apologizing, Jae-ho accused Sora of being shameless. Sora couldn't believe her ears and demanded to know what had gotten into him. Just then, A light rain began to fall, so they moved the argument to the car. Before long, Jae-ho suddenly kissed her passionately, finally opening their hearts. They walked together. Sora called Jae-ho as soon as she got home to ask if he'd arrived safely. Jae-ho told Sora to hang up and get some sleep. The moment Sora ended the call, she received a text from Jae-ho. "Let's meet up tomorrow after you get off work." Girls in the throes of love are so easy to please, even Sora was no exception. Jae-ho's transformation was even more striking. He greeted everyone with a blissful smile, yet while some rejoiced, others grieved. After kissing Sora, Taehan was left heartbroken. Love struck. He began deluding himself. Convinced Sora was playing hard to get, she must be embarrassed by that kiss, he thought. Soon, their date arrived. When she saw Taehan's lips again, Sora couldn't help but recall that early morning kiss. Having decided to be with Jae-ho, Sora felt she needed to be clear with Taehan. She told him she intended to date Jae-ho, and that the kiss days ago had been purely accidental. Taehan asked, looking hurt, if this would affect their contract. Sora assured him it wouldn't, it was a separate matter, and the contract was ending soon anyway. Taehan wanted to renew a longer contract, but Sora refused on the spot. She wanted to live her own life and have nothing to do with either WW Group or LK Group. If she ended up with Taehan, the 13 years she'd spent escaping her family would become meaningless. After saying this, their date for the day came to an end. Sora went downstairs to find Jae-ho. This was the first time in all these years she'd come to Jae-ho's house on a Tuesday. Jae-ho presented Sora with a set of clothes, hoping she would teach him how to play golf. Just as their sweet date unfolded, troubling news arrived from another front. Suki informed the family about Sora's relationship with LK Group's youngest son. They planned to leverage this marriage alliance for mutual benefit between the two families. Late at night, the agency boss came to find Taehan. "Is the woman you're dating really the heiress of WW Group?" Taehan was stunned. How did he know Sora's true identity? The man replied that WW Group had approached his mother to discuss the marriage alliance. After the initial shock wore off, Taehan realized Sora must have been manipulated by her family. Just as he hesitated over whether to tell Sora, his mother found Jae-hai. Mrs. Kim handed her a check, instructing her to monitor her son and Sora's relationship. The moment Jae-hai arrived at the mall, she spotted Sora. She assumed Sora and Taehan were deeply in love. Hearing her ex-husband's name sent shockwaves through her. In disbelief, Jae-hai called her boss to report that his girlfriend was involved in an improper relationship with her ex-husband. Taehan explained the entire situation to her. After listening, Jae-hai hung up. Utterly confused, she decided to confront Jae-ho for answers. Worried Jae-hai might cause trouble, Taehan hurriedly called Sora. Learning Sora was heading to Jae-ho's place, he rushed over by car. Jae-ho was preparing dinner for his date with Sora that evening. Just then, the doorbell rang. He opened it to find his ex-wife Jae-hai standing there. Without a word, Jae-hai barged inside. Seeing no feminine belongings in the apartment, she relaxed. She arrogantly assumed Jae-ho had hired Sora as his contract wife just to spite her. Tired of her unreasonable outburst, Jae-ho grabbed her bag and asked her to leave. Meanwhile, Taehan arrived at the building just as Sora was about to go see Jae-ho. He rushed forward and pulled Sora back. As she looked at him in confusion, he glanced up and saw Jae-ho and Jae-hai in the elevator. Fearing Sora would see and misunderstand, Taehan impulsively yanked Sora away. Jae-ho dragged his ex-wife into the underground garage, urging her to leave immediately, and stating his wife would be home soon. Jae-hai still couldn't comprehend why he would be with such a woman. She revealed Sora's true identity as the heiress of a conglomerate. She also informed him of the two conglomerates' plan to arrange a marriage between Sora and Taehan. The hard-earned prawns scattered across the floor. Sora, furious, demanded why Taehan had acted so abruptly, but Taehan couldn't reveal what had just happened. After a sincere apology, he simply let her go. Later, Sora and Jae-ho coincidentally met in the elevator. The earlier incident left both feeling slightly awkward, yet upon entering her home, Sora discovered a bottle of lip gloss dropped on the dining chair. Jae-ho's response left her slightly disappointed. Suddenly, this house felt strangely unfamiliar. But wasn't Jae-ho feeling the same? After 5 years as Sora's contract husband, he now realized he barely knew her at all, not even her true identity as a chaebol heiress. The dinner ended in this awkward atmosphere. The next day, guided by Hyunjun, Sora finally confronted her true feelings. She resolved to commit fully to Jae-ho and draw a clear line with Taehan, so she called Jae-ho. He still reminded her to be careful on her way. Not long after, Sora appeared fully prepared at Taehan's filming location. Amidst fans' screams, Taehan whisked Sora up to his trailer. Seeing her serious, hesitant expression, Taehan understood. He proactively brought up terminating their contract. He assured her not to worry about the family's arranged marriage, he would handle the explanations. But just then, his assistant frantically tapped on the window, urging him to check his phone. Upon seeing the news report on his phone, Taehan froze in shock. Overnight, headlines flooded the internet. Superstar Taehan's fiance's face revealed. The public marveled at how beautiful his girlfriend was, but the most stunned were the few colleagues who had met Jaeho's wife. Late that night, Jaeho summoned Sora to his home. He had written down 496 questions about Sora in his notebook. Sora couldn't help but chuckle upon hearing this. Jaeho then inquired about her family. Sora revealed she was an orphan, her entire family having perished in a devastating flood, until one day, a woman approached her, offering to adopt her. Thus, Sora became the heiress of the WW Group. From childhood, she was trained in various skills, so that as an adult, she could fulfill the role of any wife and facilitate the conglomerate's strategic marriages. Hearing Sora's story, Jaeho felt deeply moved and refrained from asking more questions. Sora then told Jaeho they would have plenty of time together in the future to gradually get to know each other, so there was no need to force themselves. Jaeho closed the notebook in his hands, but Sora, curious, reached out to see what questions were written inside. As they playfully wrestled over it, their distance closed once more. Jaeho pulled Sora into his arms and kissed her. Just as the young couple was lost in the moment, a phone rang. Hyunjin demanded to know why she wasn't home yet. Her moment interrupted. Sora muttered curses before hanging up. Glancing at her reflection, she couldn't resist tidying herself up again. But when she emerged from the bathroom, she was speechless to find Jaeho fast asleep on the sofa. The culprit? Nothing more than an alcohol-infused chocolate. Just as she was about to vent her frustration, she received a call from the local police station. It turned out Taehan had been brought in for fighting. Jae-hai, Taehan's lawyer, arrived to handle the situation. Unexpectedly, the stalker's target wasn't the celebrity Taehan. Sora revealed the stalker was actually a former client she'd served. Based on Sora's account, the police reclassified the case as stalking and harassment for separate investigation. The next day, the stalker's sister tracked down Sora and knelt before her in public, pleading for Sora to drop the charges against her brother. Moved by the woman's emotional blackmail, Sora agreed to her request. The sister then went to her brother's room and tore up all the secretly taken photos. She insisted that if Sora hadn't divorced her brother 8 years ago, he wouldn't have sunk so low. Furious, she prepared to expose all of Sora's personal information. But just then, Jae-hai found her. Jae-hai urged her to stop blaming Sora. Neon was baffled. She believed Jae-hai should dislike Sora even more than she did. Such actions would only worsen her brother's condition and harm Jaeho. That's why Jae-hai sought Neon out to stop her. But just when she thought the woman wouldn't leak the information, Sora's negative news flooded the internet. Netizens mocked why so many men would agree to a sham marriage with Sora. With Taehan's fiancé title attached, the report shot to the top of trending searches. Amidst the growing public outcry, more people learned about Sora. The reason this story surfaced was entirely due to 2 police officers at the station who couldn't keep their mouths shut, discussing last night's gossip during work hours. They were overheard by a reporter taking notes nearby. Meanwhile, completely unaware, Sora was on a date with Jaeho at the amusement park. Realizing something was wrong, she checked her phone to find her information and past history flooding the internet. When she looked back at Jaeho nearby, she was at a loss. During Taehan's interview, a reporter pressed him about how many times his fiancée had been divorced. He hurriedly cut the interview short and called Sora. Kind-hearted Sora suggested they first think of a strategy to minimize the damage to Taehan's reputation. Just as Taehan's team was at their wits' end, Jae-hai proposed a solution. She suggested Taehan could portray himself as the victim. Deceived by Sora's false affections, Taehan immediately objected, insisting he would never hurt Sora. At that moment, a knock sounded at the door. It was Sora. She addressed the group, confessing she had manipulated Taehan by concealing her marital history and still intended to marry him. She then instructed lawyer Jae-hai to draft a statement. Despite Sora's earlier nonchalance, she leaned exhausted against the wall after leaving Taehan's home. She dared not contemplate the public backlash awaiting her. Taehan rushed out, accusing Sora of disregarding his feelings. He revealed her adoptive mother was orchestrating everything to force the family alliance. Learning her adoptive mother was meddling again, Sora seethed with rage. She stormed home to confront her. Suki flung marriage certificates onto the floor, angrily declaring Sora had lost her value as a bride for the family alliance. Meanwhile, Jai-hai called her ex-husband, only to have him hang up immediately. Fuming, she sent him a text. Jae-ho called her back instantly. Jai-hai impatiently hung up the call. Late at night, while drafting a speech, Jai-hai received another call from Jae-ho. She immediately dropped her work and excitedly headed to meet him, but upon learning he sought her out regarding Sora's matter, she felt deeply disappointed. Just as she stepped out of the cafe, she received an urgent call from her subordinate. She learned Taehan had unilaterally called a press conference. She rushed to confront Taehan before the press conference began, demanding why he'd called it alone. Taehan openly admitted his lack of trust in her. After their exchange, Jai-hai pledged to save Sora. Taehan relented only after she assured him he wouldn't harm Sora at the press conference. Soon, they arrived at the press conference. Jai-hai declared that all recent rumors about Taehan's fiancé were true. Just as Taehan moved to intervene, Jai-hai's tone abruptly shifted. She stated that while Sora had been married multiple times, though none of these marriages lasted long, each was deeply sincere. Every one of her ex-husbands unanimously declared they loved her without regret or blame. She further stated that both Taehan and Sora deeply love each other. Even after learning about her past, Taehan still wishes to be Miss Sora's final destination. They genuinely love each other. If anyone continues to engage in personal attacks, defamation, or spreading false information online, they will take strong legal action. Jai-hai's statement temporarily calmed the public outcry. The narrative quickly transformed into a touching love story between Taehan and Sora, but this left the real couple watching at home in a tough spot. Taehan's love was genuine, but Sora couldn't handle the public attention, so she proposed breaking up. Sora asked Taehan to announce this publicly. Unexpectedly, Taehan blurted out, "Marry me." Seeing Sora's awkward expression, Taehan hastily clarified he wasn't proposing. He stated that if Sora wished, she could still date Jae-ho. After all, neither of them measured love by marriage. This way, no one would gossip about Sora anymore. It would also be beneficial for the two families involved in the arranged marriage. Yet Sora declared she would never work for WW Group. She told Taehan she wasn't the heiress of WW Group, but an orphan they had adopted and raised abroad. As Sora exited the residential compound, she happened to encounter Jae-ho returning home from work. They exchanged a glance before parting ways. Jae-ho silently shielded her from the pursuing reporters. The following night, Sora visited a cafe alone. Overwhelmed by these distressing events, she couldn't help but break down in tears. Just then, Jae-ho called with concern. Sora's worries weren't about herself, but about Jae-ho. Jae-ho appeared behind her just when she needed him most. Warmly, he wiped the tears from her eyes and pulled her into his embrace. Suki saw Sora and Jae-ho's marriage registration and sought out Hyunjun. She wanted to pry information about Jae-ho from him. Later, when Sora returned, Hyunjun immediately knelt down, admitting his grave mistake. Learning her adoptive mother had pried information about Jae-ho from Hyunjun, Sora's rage boiled over. She stormed into her mother's room and immediately exploded in anger. After a heated argument, Sora turned and walked away. The next day, Suki appeared at WW Group, demanding the chairman bring Sora back to the company. When he refused, Suki pulled out a USB drive. President Kim panicked upon seeing the drive. It contained records of everything since the group's founding, including the orphan cultivation program. Suki tossed it dismissively, stating it was merely a backup. She declared she'd hand over the original files once Sora was returned to the family. Meanwhile, Hyunjun arrived at the courthouse. He informed Jae-ho that Sora's adoptive mother was attempting to disrupt her life. Hyunjun sincerely hoped Jae-ho would become the first man to save Sora. Jae-ho made a call, requesting the other party gather any information on WW Group. Days later, armed with the collected data, he confronted the orphanage director who had sold Sora. He urged the director to cooperate fully with the prosecution's investigation to seek a reduced sentence. The director countered that Sora's adoptive mother wasn't a bad person. He claimed this wasn't an inhumane abuse case. He vowed to disclose everything to the prosecutors. Shortly after meeting the director, Jae-ho called Sora's adoptive mother to arrange a meeting. They soon crossed paths at an intersection, but Jae-ho never imagined someone would attempt to assassinate her in broad daylight. Seeing this, he sprinted toward her. Though the getaway car sped away, Jae-ho managed to memorize its license plate. Sora, alerted by the news, rushed to the hospital. Pulling back the curtain, she found a nurse administering N4 to Jaeho. When her boyfriend emerged, fully dressed, Sora delivered a punch to his shoulder. After seeing her adoptive mother off, Sora decided to stay at the hospital to care for Jaeho. From her rough feeding motions, Jaeho understood Sora was angry with him. Jaeho's sincere apology instantly cooled Sora's anger. Determined to prove her worth as a girlfriend, Sora became self-righteously busy. Despite their 5-year contract marriage, the honest Jaeho remained chaste. Then, to Jaeho's stunned gaze, Sora proceeded to completely remodel the hospital room. Soon after, Jaeho's colleagues began arriving to visit. His humorous boss couldn't resist teasing as soon as he entered the room, "Is this your new home?" Once they were alone, the boss offered thoughtful advice: "No matter what rumors circulate outside, both I and the office staff can see how deeply you and Sora love each other." He urged Jaeho to focus on recovery, putting work aside for now and not rushing back. After seeing off the colleagues, Sora, radiant with happiness, gently guided Jaeho back into the room. This scene was witnessed by Jaeho's ex-wife, who had just arrived to visit. Seeing the couple walking arm in arm, Jaehae discreetly turned away. After a brief moment of sadness, she composed herself and left. Upon learning of Sora's tragic fate, Taehan felt immense pain. He was furious that a family could stoop to such despicable acts for money and political marriage. After much thought, he called Sora. Taehan insisted it was all his fault. "You were planning to retire and start anew, but I ruined that for you." Taehan apologized, his voice heavy with sorrow. Sora told him not to sacrifice himself for those he cared about. After wishing him success in his future endeavors, their contractual relationship officially ended. Late that night, as Taehan sat alone in sorrow, Jaehae found him. The two broken-hearted souls decided to share a drink. Under the influence of alcohol, they talked at length. Taehan's older brother, fearing Taehan would return to contest the family fortune, approached WW Group, the company that had nurtured Sora since childhood, with a sinister plan. The two cunning businessmen immediately found common ground. Sora and Jaeho had just found happiness together. Sora had been sleeping on the floor at the hospital to care for Jaeho. To spare her the hardship of staying with him, Jaeho quietly checked himself out. But because celebrity Taehan lived upstairs in their building, reporters constantly swarmed the lobby, making it difficult to leave. So Hyunjun offered to let Jaeho stay in his room. Suki never imagined that just because this young man saved her a couple days ago, Sora would bring him home. At night, she stared at the USB drive in her hand, pondering how to resolve matters with WW Group. They actually dared to hire assassins to eliminate her. Just then, playful sounds of the young couple came from the next room. The middle-aged woman couldn't help but pry her ear against the door to eavesdrop. If she caught anything inappropriate, she'd storm in to stop them. Jaeho asked if she wanted to join him for a late-night snack. Though Suki was initially resistant, the irresistible aroma of the food won her over, and she gracefully sat down for a small taste. Jaeho then suggested they all sleep with their doors open. He imagined it as sharing the same space, like a family. But to the two women, his words took on a different meaning. Jaeho quickly bid them goodnight and slipped into his own room. Soki, who had raised Sora since childhood, knew her daughter's temperament well. She glanced at both rooms and sensed tonight wouldn't be ordinary. Sure enough, Suki dragged a small stool into the middle of the living room late at night. Spotting the figure sitting there, Sora was speechless. Fortunately, the person had already drifted off, so Sora adorably set down her slippers and tiptoed past, darting into Jaeho's room. Early the next morning, Sora personally cooked a rich oxtail soup for Jaeho. Indeed, kimchi tastes better when fed by your girlfriend. Just then, Jaeho sensed a burning gaze on his back. Taehan was furious upon learning his older brother intended to marry Sora. Soon after, Miho tracked down Sora and blackmailed her into marrying him. Even if it was just for appearances, he didn't care. In exchange, he promised to guarantee Sora and Suki's safety. Sora also knew the hit-and-run car from earlier wasn't as simple as it seemed. Miho told Sora to think it over carefully before leaving. Meanwhile, only Jaeho and Suki remained at home. The two finally had a chance to sit down and talk. Jaeho confronted her. "Are you Sora's biological mother?" Though Suki continued to deny it, the astute Jaeho had already uncovered the truth. Suki was Sora's biological mother, not some adoptive mother. Late that night, the three drinking together learned that Hyunjun had been fired by Taehan. Suddenly, Jaeho recalled his conversation with Taehan that afternoon. The words Taehan had spoken to him felt like a farewell. Sure enough, The next day, Taehan held a press conference, announcing his permanent departure from the entertainment industry and revealing his identity as the youngest son of LK Group. Miho nearly collapsed on the spot upon hearing the news. Taehan had ultimately abandoned the life he desired for Sora's sake. He would now protect Sora under a new identity. President Kim summoned his youngest son, who had just returned to the company. He didn't want his son to assume a high position immediately upon his return. Instead, he decided to have Taehan start from the bottom. Unexpectedly, Taehan refused outright. Taehan confidently declared his abilities far surpassed Miho's, making a high-ranking position his rightful place. He added that if he underperformed, his father could dismiss him at any time. President Kim was highly satisfied with his youngest son's self-assurance. He immediately appointed Taehan as an executive director. Miho stood by, glaring in fury. Sora wondered how Taehan was faring since leaving the entertainment industry. After all, the profit-driven chaebol world was what he despised most. Concerned, Sora called him, but the line went unanswered. After a busy morning, Taehan finally had a moment to sit and catch his breath. Seeing Sora's multiple missed calls, Taehan didn't want to disturb her further. After work, Taehan returned to the mansion to pack up the memories he'd left behind. As he sat alone, feeling melancholy, the doorbell rang in the distance. Approaching, he saw none other than the Sora he'd been longing for. Sora asked him why he'd done this. She felt he must have had reasons he couldn't voice, but Taehan asked her why she'd helped him. Taehan's words left Sora speechless. To avoid further disrupting her life, Taehan painfully shut Sora out. Returning home that night, Sora sat alone on the sofa, murmuring to herself. In the 13 years since entering the contract marriage business, Sora had served countless clients. Each had found happiness through her. Now, seeing Taehan hurt because of her, an inexplicable sadness welled up inside her. Taehan encountered Jaeho in the elevator. As his former romantic rival, Jaeho noticed Taehan's mental state wasn't quite right, but Taehan insisted he was fine. After brief pleasantries, they parted ways. For executive director Taehan, this day was another busy one. After wrapping up work, Taehan calls his subordinate, instructing him to closely monitor his older brother's every move. Before he finishes speaking, his mother enters with a smile. Seeing her expression, Taehan knows nothing good is coming. Sure enough, to spare his mother any awkwardness with his father, Taehan agrees to her request to go on a blind date with the chaebol heiress. Meanwhile, finding the office too spacious, Jae-hye brings Taehan a potted plant. Mrs. Kim was thoroughly pleased with the lawyer's demeanor. She couldn't help but sigh that Jae-hye was just one thing short of her ideal daughter-in-law, a wealthy family background. Later, Taehan met the heiress of the Sunghan Group at his mother's request. Surprisingly, this young lady had been the leader of his fan club during his acting days. She had already fantasized about marrying her idol and starting a family. But Taehan refused to deceive his fans' feelings. Deep down, he still couldn't forget Sora. After politely declining, he left. Meanwhile, Jaeho uncovered irrefutable evidence confirming Suki was Sora's biological mother. Yet Sora had remained completely unaware for decades. It turned out that 33 years ago, the current chairman of WW Group had abandoned Suki to marry the daughter of a chaebol. After being abandoned, Suki met Sora's father and gave birth to her. Later, to provide Sora with what she believed was a better life, Suki collaborated with WW Group again to illegally adopt the young Sora. Unable to tell Sora the truth, Jaeho sought out Suki once more, but Suki denied the facts, believing she had no right to be Sora's mother. Perhaps this was fate's punishment. Her only recourse now was to confront the chairman and reclaim what rightfully belonged to her daughter. Sora. Days earlier, Sora had presented Jaeho with a stack of certificates. Having recently quit her job as a marriage counselor, she found life dull and wanted to start anew. She asked Jaeho for advice on what career path to pursue, but Jaeho had other plans. He suggested they could plan her future while enjoying the night view during their date tomorrow evening. But when Sora arrived at the hotel the next day, beautifully dressed, Jaeho didn't show up. Instead, she was met by Suki, her biological mother. It turned out that after learning Suki's true identity, Jaeho couldn't bear to see them hurt each other anymore, so he deliberately set up this scheme. Suki's sudden apology left Sora at a loss. Truthfully, Suki had long wanted to apologize to Sora, but her pride had always prevented her from finding the words. Thanks to Jaeho's help, she finally voiced her heartfelt feelings to her daughter. Sora accepted her apology. With the waiter's assistance, The two managed to take a rare photo together after decades apart. Sora should have been happy about Jaeho doing this, yet here Jaeho sat, sharing a table with his ex-wife. Though it was merely polite small talk after letting go of the past, Jaeho still drank with her. After a few rounds, Jaeho pulled out a bank passbook. It was the settlement his ex-wife had given him 5 years ago when they divorced. He had never opened it. Now, intact, he returned it to her. Along with it vanished the memories of their youthful first love. After both had met their respective people, Sora and Jaeho met at a cafe. The moment they saw each other, Sora accused Jaeho of daring to deceive her. Jaeho promised he would never lie to her again and truthfully recounted his earlier plans. The more Sora thought about it, the angrier she became. She told Jaeho she'd also met with Taehan today, but Jaeho's thought process was unconventional. The next day, Jaeho received an invitation to a golf outing with his boss. He messaged Sora to join him, but waited in vain for a reply. At the gathering, the boss noticed Jaeho arriving alone and immediately realized he'd upset Sora. Though Sora hadn't replied, Hyunjun's scheming made her rush to the gym to see Jaeho. Hesitating at the entrance, she happened to bump into Jaeho as he was leaving. They shared a smile and returned to Jaeho's place. Jaeho also confessed to Sora why he'd planned to meet his ex-wife that night. Couples need this kind of honesty to avoid so many misunderstandings. Seeing it was getting late, Sora was about to leave when Jaeho suddenly stopped her. Recalling the secret manual he'd just bought from his boss for 100,000 won, Jaeho drove Sora home late at night only to be scolded by Suki the moment he arrived. Sora asked her male best friend what was wrong with her. Hyunjun replied that back when his sister skipped cram school late at night to sneak off to a male classmate's place, her mom was exactly like Suki's expression. Then Hyunjun grinned mischievously and asked Sora if she'd reviewed the cuddling homework he taught her. Seeing her thoughtful expression, Hyunjun murmured, "This kid is teachable." The next day, Sora dressed up beautifully and went out on a date with her boyfriend. Jaeho never imagined how happy it would be to have someone to freely discuss the future with. Soon after, Taehan learned from a detective that his older brother constantly had people tailing Sora and Suki. Worried, he visited Sora late at night only to find the front door ajar and unlocked. He cautiously entered the house and discovered two men in black rummaging through drawers and cabinets. Injured, Taehan asked if Miho had sent them. Realizing their cover was blown, the two criminals exchanged a glance and turned to flee. Colliding head-on with Suki returning home, Taehan revealed his brother intended to exploit Sora for personal gain. The two men were likely sent by his brother to gather evidence. To protect Sora and prevent further innocent people from being dragged into this, Suki resolved to handle the matter herself and asked Taehan to keep it confidential. Returning home, Taehan happened to see Sora and someone else in an intimate moment inside a car. Sora came home to find the place in disarray and once again blamed her foster mother. Suki, abandoning her usual assertiveness, spoke gently to Sora, "Don't worry, this will be over soon. All of this started because of me. I'll handle it myself." The next day, Suki found Miho and advised him to stay put and enjoy the fruits of his labor. Don't even think about your plan to swallow up the Yuna group. Sora was merely a discarded project of Yuna. Unexpectedly, Miho burst into laughter upon hearing this. He revealed to Suki that his ambitions extended far beyond just the WW group. Seeing her persuasion futile, Suki resolved to personally expose all of Yuna Group's crimes, even if it meant plunging herself into danger. She would protect her daughter's future happiness, but Suki's friend didn't want her to risk herself, so she sought out Jaeho, pleading for his help. After deep consideration, Jaeho approached his ex-wife, asking her to defend Suki while he gathered evidence. Even if it meant fabricating evidence and losing his job as a judge, he would fight for Suki's acquittal. After all, Sora was his top priority. But Jaehae, another woman, knew that wasn't what Sora truly wanted. To prevent Jaeho from straying down the wrong path out of love, Jaehae met Sora late at night to warn her about Jaeho's reckless plan. Upon learning the truth, Sora burst into tears and rushed to the courthouse. She wanted to confront him, but the words died on her lips. She understood deeply that Jaeho was doing this all for her. He loved her and wouldn't let her get hurt. Late that night, Hyunjun walked with Sora outside to calm her down. Suddenly, a car pulled up beside them. The driver was none other than Miho. They entered the car for a private conversation. One remark from Sora sent Miho into a rage on the spot. Sora then unexpectedly learned she was not the heiress of WW Group at all. The woman who raised her, Mrs. Ryu, was actually her biological mother. Returning to her room that night, Sora rummaged through a drawer and pulled out an old flip phone. She had kept it so carefully because it held secrets powerful enough to turn the tide of the battle. Soon after, Sora received another text from Jai-Hai. She informed Sora that Jae-ho hadn't stopped his actions. He seemed to be planning something dangerous, as if he intended to help Suki escape abroad, to stop her boyfriend from doing something foolish. Sora went to his house for dinner that night, but Jae-ho didn't know this would be their last meal together, because Sora had already made a secret decision in her heart. She then visited Taehan's home to explain her upcoming plan, but Sora worried this plan might hurt Taehan. After all, no matter how bad Miho was, he was still his brother. Taehan told Sora not to worry about him, to only think of herself. Soon, the next day arrived. At the LK Group shareholders meeting, the chairman praised his youngest son Taehan's outstanding performance, yet Taehan's expression showed not a hint of joy. He kept glancing at his watch, until the conference room door swung open, and Sora strode in with overwhelming presence. After a brief self-introduction, she turned to Miho and asked a single question. Miho panicked, pointing at Sora and declaring, "No one here will believe a word you say." But Sora merely smiled faintly, pulling out that flip phone from her bag and playing the recording inside. It was a recording Sora had made during her first visit to the Kong family home over a decade ago. Learning she was merely a pawn in a family marriage scheme, Sora lost her appetite and excused herself to the restroom. Unexpectedly, the arrogant Miho followed her in moments later, slurring drunkenly, "Are you trying to seduce me?" Sora turned to leave, only to be met with his vicious insults. Hearing this, Taehan could no longer bear it. He rose, approached his brother, and delivered a sharp slap. Miho tried to retaliate but was swiftly escorted out by security. Walking home late at night, Sora called Jae-ho. She told him she missed him and wanted to see him immediately. Jae-ho said he was at home preparing dinner, her favorite salmon. Hearing this, Sora composed herself and told him not to wait if she was late. But to Jae-ho's shock, he waited 3 hours with no sign of Sora. When he called again, there was no answer. Recalling Sora's words from the call, Jae-ho suddenly remembered something. He went to the closet and found all traces of Sora's presence gone. The ring he had given her had returned to its original place. Heartbroken, Jae-ho couldn't hold back his sobs. The day he dreaded most had finally arrived. Hyunjun couldn't understand Sora's actions, but Sora, sounding weak and defeated, said her life was too shameful to face him. Sora knew full well how good Jae-ho was to her. For her sake, he would sacrifice without hesitation. Sora didn't want him to suffer more because of her, so she made this choice. In the days without Sora, Jae-ho slipped back into his colorless routine. From then on, both Jae-ho and Sora embarked on their own painful solitary journeys. Sora spent her days in tears, while Jae-ho lived the lonely, chilly existence of an elderly recluse. Suki couldn't bear to watch them inflict this suffering upon themselves. She sought out Jae-ho, urging the two who loved each other not to waste any more time, and urged them to clarify things and reunite soon. Meanwhile, while cleaning the room, Sora discovered her male best friend's passport and an expired plane ticket. Sora confronted him, demanding why he'd kept this from her. Then Sora asked, "Didn't you want to be a singer? Taehan's agent even promised to properly train you. You were clearly happy, why leave?" But Hyunjun said he lacked confidence here. What if he entered the entertainment industry only to have his attraction to men exposed? Late at night, Suki asked her daughter what Jae-ho had changed in her life. After pondering, Sora replied there were many things. First, he improved their mother-daughter relationship. Second, he let her live the life she truly wanted. And Jae-ho had taught her how to love. Suki nodded. "That's the answer," she said. Everything she'd pushed Sora to do before was to prevent her from living like herself. If she met true love, someone worthy of a lifetime commitment, she should be bold and not let him slip away. That day, Jae-ho clocked out on time as usual. Opening the door, he found someone waiting inside. Looking up, he saw Sora had prepared a feast waiting for him. Their eyes met, and Sora bowed her head apologetically, unable to look at him. After a moment of shock, Jae-ho sat down calmly. Lovers reunited after a long separation need no extra words. A single short sentence could express all the love they held for each other. After a night of complete honesty, Jae-ho and Sora finally reconciled. That day at work, Jae-ho's computer screen suddenly displayed various proposal plans. After studying all afternoon, Jae-ho seemed confident. Late that night, he invited Sora to a restaurant date. When Sora got up to use the restroom, Jae-ho pulled the diamond ring from his jacket pocket and rehearsed the techniques he'd learned. But after practicing repeatedly, he felt something was missing. Fearing his social anxiety would surface, Jae-ho slipped the ring back into his pocket. Just then, he noticed the restaurant staff bustling about with unusual activity. After observing for a moment, he realized another guest was preparing for a proposal that very day. He didn't want to disrupt their special moment. As he walked away, he couldn't help but mutter under his breath, "Can such an extravagant proposal even work?" After all, he'd learned that afternoon that the essentials of a proposal were simplicity and sincerity. Little did he know, two waiters approached him the moment the words left his mouth. In that instant, Jae-ho froze completely. His legs trembled as he shuffled to the center of the stage, his breathing becoming ragged. But when he saw Sora approaching from afar, bouquet in hand, he was utterly speechless. Accompanied by Hyunjun's harmonies, Sora asked, "Will you marry me?" Seeing all the thoughtful preparations Sora had made, Jae-ho's heart melted. He lifted his head, fighting back tears, and said to Sora, "I will." Amidst the crowd's cheers, Sora kissed him passionately. Late at night, as soon as they got out of the car, Jae-ho embraced Sora from behind. "I should have proposed first. I'm sorry I was late." With that, he turned his wife around to reveal the trunk filled with flowers. Sora beamed with joy. Jae-ho remarked, "The petals with the most scars are the sweetest, just like you, Sora." He then knelt before a bustling street stall filled with festive energy. After receiving Sora's nod of consent, Jae-ho rose and slipped the diamond ring onto the finger of his dearest love. Meanwhile, Taehan brought Jae-hai to the film set to deliver coffee, promising to take her to the actual filming location next time. It would be more fun. Jae-hai excitedly assumed he was making a comeback, but Taehan replied, sounding slightly despondent, that there wouldn't be another chance. It was clear Taehan still yearned to return to acting, yet, pressured by his family's expectations, he had no choice but to reluctantly follow in his father's footsteps. Yet Sora understood every ounce of this pain. That day, she sought out Taehan's mother, confessing her own past suffering. She had lived her life according to her mother's expectations, but when she first met Taehan, she saw her former self reflected in him. That version of Taehan wasn't happy. "He must have hidden his pain from you, just as I did." After their conversation, the parents arrived at Taehan's residence. His father immediately demanded Taehan go study management at an overseas company. After a moment of disappointment, Taehan agreed. Seeing her son's sadness, his mother finally understood. She asked, "Is that truly what you want?" He gently replied he didn't want to go, but felt he had to. His mother told him if he didn't want to, he shouldn't go. His father, upon hearing this, became furious. Taehan couldn't believe it. His mother, who had never defied his father, was now arguing fiercely with him over this. As they spoke, his sweet mother began to cry. Seeing this, his father hurried to comfort her, saying he was wrong and that his son should do whatever he wanted. Thus, with Sora and his mother's help, Taehan made his comeback and returned to the entertainment industry. Jae-ho and his wife also set their wedding date. Sora pointed to a hotel in a picture and declared, "We're booking this one for the wedding." But Jae-ho worried the space might be too small. Sora reassured him, "Don't worry, I got married here with Hyunjun before." Mid-sentence, Sora realized her slip-up and awkwardly changed the subject. "Let's look at the next hotel." After finally booking the hotel, the couple headed to a bridal shop. Jae-ho finally tried on a well-fitting suit. He remarked that even hiking with Sora in dress shoes hadn't been this exhausting. Yet the moment he saw Sora in her wedding gown, he instantly perked up. But no matter how beautiful it was, Sora remained unsatisfied, trying on dress after dress. Soon, both collapsed exhausted onto the sofa. During their chat, they realized neither actually wanted a formal wedding. They promptly decided against a formal ceremony, opting instead to invite close friends and family for a simple home-cooked meal. In the end, the young couple hosted a cozy gathering for their loved ones at home. The next morning, amidst the messy aftermath, Sora slept in on the sofa while Jae-ho got up to prepare lunch. When you're with the one you love, everything tastes delicious. And so, the story comes to a close. I wonder if this ending satisfies everyone.